Okay, so welcome everyone to this gender-based violence and rape awareness forum. We're so delighted to have all of you here with us. And we decided with this forum to do something a little bit different, where we have sought to cover all aspects in terms of the family, the traditional family as we know it, to have a voice in sharing to this particular issue. But what we've also done is we've gotten some comedians to partner with us, where we want to see how comedy can help in shifting and changing the culture. And so we want to thank all of you who have agreed to be a part of this forum and to lend your talents, your skills, and your voice to this cause as we continue to raise awareness. There was something that was circulated in a WhatsApp group this morning, and I'm certain some of you would have seen it. But it would have been talking about a lady who went jogging. Yes. And in her going jogging, she was raped. And it talked about how as she tried to cry out for help, persons did not stop to help her. And then eventually some other women came along. And so we want to just keep raising awareness to these issues that we are facing here in the Bahamas, to continue to raise awareness in terms of from all sides of it, so that we can see a change in the culture and see our numbers go down. So thank you once again and welcome to the GPV Rape Awareness Forum. David Williams.
Okay, folks, I just want to, like Kendra, join in welcoming those of you who took the time. I'm encouraging also you to share the link. Let friends know that we have already begun. Invite them to be a part of it. A number of persons I got response from, even overseas. But as usual, Kendra and I are a faith-based initiative. So anything we do, we always acknowledge that Christ must be in the center. And so at this point, I'm just going to ask right now that we bow for a brief word of prayer. Let us pray. Our Father, our God, we thank you, we praise you, we honor you, we glorify your name. Thank you for waking us up this morning. And now we commit whatever said, whatever shared, may it be used for your honor, for your glory, and for our good. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen. Okay. So this event that we held, one of the questions that was asked was, why was this event being held at this particular time? And the reason for that was, one, we wanted to still get it in 2021, but also because we know that during the holiday seasons, a lot of persons are socializing, they're interacting, they're getting out there. And we wanted to still seize this particular opportunity to raise awareness to this issue so that we could have a safer holiday season. December 10th was International Human Rights Day. And in taking note of that, we held this in commemoration of that, using one of the declarations of human rights, which is the right to liberty and freedom and safety of person. And that is what we want to promote with this forum today. So we thank all of you for being here. Our time is going to be very brief, 2 hours. As we said earlier, we want to get everything in that we can get in this allotted time. And so we remind everyone to please be mindful of the time, and we will have more events coming up in the new year that we could expand on this topic more.
One of the things we also want to let you know is that this is just not a one-time event. It's not like the J&J vaccine, one shot and you're done. Kendra and I in the past have done a number of programs in the Department of Corrections. We ran the first program that was for 25 sex offenders. Also, we did a program earlier this year at the Boys and Girls School, Simpson Penn, and the William A. Pratt. And so Kendra and I has decided to partner as we want to take this throughout the year 2022. And so we're looking forward to those of you on board who will partner with us, like the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, which we know is a fact. Also, Mr. Mike Russell from, I think that's the Rotary, and a number of organizations. And so I just want to let you know a little about me. I serve as an elder at the Redemption Seventh Adventist Church, Director of Uplifting Men's Ministry, a part of the International Men's Day Committee, and host of the radio program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. Thank you.
Yes, and I am Kendra Bowe. I am the CEO of the Rite of Passage Project, which is a youth and community-based organization. In addition to that, I've done a lot of work in the youth area. And so I have definitely, with many of you who are on this forum today, in some way, shape, or form, have either worked or networked with you in some way as it pertains to youth in the country. And so without further ado, so that we don't go over our time that was allotted for this segment, we want to recognize now our co-host, which is Ms. Denise Major. And Denise is the CEO of the Empowerment Network. I just want to make sure I get the full name correct. The Empowerment Group. Yes, and so she will be our well-able co-host today, along with Ms. Candy Gibson, who of course is the CEO of FOAM. And so those ladies will be leading us in the forum today as we enter this discussion. And then Dave and I will be back at another point. So at this time, we will like to turn it over to the Director of Gender and Family Affairs, and that is none other than Dr. Felipe, who has supported us in this initiative and assisted us in making this happen today. And she will open this forum up for us and bring our opening remarks. Okay, Dr. Felipe, we can't hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this opportunity to be here with you this afternoon. I bring greetings. Good afternoon to the host and co-host, Ms. Kendra Bowe, JP, CEO of Rite of Passage Project, and Elder Dave Williams of Uplifting Men's Ministry, Ms. Candy Gibson of FOAM, Family of All Murdered Victims, and Ms. Denise Major, respective co-host, Dr. Novia Carter-Loki, Director of the National Drug Council and psychologist for Suspected Child Abuse and Neglect Unit, as well as the Crisis Center, and an expert lecturer. Dr. Eric Fox, Executive Director of Teen Challenge Bahamas, and an anger management and temperance expert and consultant for Urban Renewal Program. Dr. Sean Knowles, psychiatrist and servant of the people. Father James Palacios, Reverend Angela Palacios, and Apostle Gilbert Roll, and all other ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ that brings peace and hope. Mrs. Marissa Mason-Smith, president of Zonda Club of New Providence and advocate extraordinaire. Attorney Robin Lyons, the insightful progressive deputy chair of the Caribbean Women in Leadership CWIL Bahamas National Chapter, and all other women's leadership groups presented. Ms. Stephanie Fritz, CEO of Printers Court Ministry, birthed in 2004, and Ms. Alicia Roll, powerful examples of overcomers of gender-based violence. Gifted comedians, Latoya and King Cloud, an inspirational artist, Peter Runks, other media, staff of Gender and Family Affairs, Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, all Zonshans, Civil Society Bahamas, and our community of non-government organization, and a special welcome and thank you to the press. Today, the 28th of December 2021, the Department of Gender and Family Affairs and the Ministry of Social Service and Urban Development congratulates the Rite of Passage Project and Uplifting Men's Ministries and the organizers and esteemed panelists for this gender-based violence rape forum. You have indeed taken the bold step in having this difficult conversation as you seek to change the Bahamian culture from acceptance of violence in all its forms, especially sexual violence against women and girls. Why are you here today? Why are we here today? We want to have a better understanding of the factors that increase the risk of being the victims or perpetrators of violence. This knowledge is essential for us to collectively advocate for laws, policies, and programs to prevent and or manage the social, emotional, physical impacts of violence on persons, their family, and society at large. Permit me for 2 more minutes to share with you a very quick presentation. And why is this important? Because I think really starting, can you see? All right. So we'll talk more about gender-based violence, but we want to make sure that you understand that any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, whether occurring in public or private life, whether occurring in public or private life. It also includes violence against men, provided the violence stems from a man's gender, identity, or presentation. It also applies to violence experienced by gender non-conforming people. That's a new term for transgender, other gender. There's a topology where it's self-inflicted, interpersonal, and collective across the spectrum from physical, sexual, psychological to deprivation. The Royal Bahamas Police Force 2020 report talks about homicides, and it also talks about fatal gunshot wound as a leading cause of death. For the period in review, a total of 279 firearms were found. And that's really significant as we identify how people are being affected, but they're also men, don't forget. When you look at nationwide crime statistics, I want you to consider addressing violence in all its form to eliminate violence against women, to eliminate rape. We have to consider murder, attempted murder, manslaughter. In 2020, there was reported 50 rape victims, and in 2019, 43. So we see there was an increase during that time. We also see an increase in unlawful sexual intercourse as well. And so these are areas that we need to be addressing. Why do we want to address it? Because we want everyone in the Bahamas to be healthy, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. It really is a state in which one can enjoy and participate in the right of life and liberty and safety. We need to look at the ecological framework of violence prevention at the individual level, the relationship, the community, and the society. We have to consider how violence impacts children and prevent it by implementing and enforcing laws, changing norms and values, ensuring safe environments, providing parent and caregiver support, looking at our income and economic strengthening, looking at our response and support service, and our education and life skills. These are going to be significant. So I don't want you, as you just sit here listening to this, consider, oh my gosh, I want you to think, what can we do collectively to make the difference? Because that is what this forum, I think, is about collectively. Your theme, the right of life and liberty, is especially fitting in commemoration of the 10th of December as International Human Rights Day. This year marks the 73rd anniversary of this adoption of this Universal Declaration. The government and people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas joined the international community in commemorating this day under the theme Equality, Reducing Inequalities, Advancing Human Rights. And this resolution came about on the 4th of December 1950. It was proclaimed as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, towards which individuals, societies strive by progressive measures. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas became a member of the United Nations in September 18, 1973, and also joined this charter. It's also a state party to several United Nations human rights instruments that seek to ensure the right of life and liberty. And you must get to know them and help us to actualize them in our culture. The Bahamas was recently elected as a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council for the term 2019-2021, being the first member state of the Caribbean community. Human rights is everyone's inherent right. The government, through its Blueprint for Change speech from the throne, delivered by Governor General, His Excellency, the Most Honorable Sir Cornelius Smith, heralded, and I quote, through partnerships with social services, urban renewal, and civil society, including churches, the government will work to ensure that every Bahamian has a life, skill, food to eat, clean water, and roof over their heads. This is indeed at the heart of the human rights movement in the Bahamas. Our very own constitution has written into it the recognition of the supremacy of God and the belief in fundamental rights and freedoms of the individuals. We were established as a free and democratic sovereign nation founded on spiritual values and in which now no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bond to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation. Indeed, these lofty aspirations are also written into the mandates of the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development and the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. And every NGO has been established in some way to meet these aspirations. Gender-based violence is an obstacle to our country's human development, and I believe we must advocate for the right of life and liberty for all Bahamians, especially women and children, if we are to attain equality, peace, and security to the families in Bahama Island. As the director of the Department of Gender and Family Affairs in the Ministry of Social Service and Urban Development, I pledge my support as we work together with the Rite of Passage Project and Uplifting Men's Ministries and other NGOs present to equip and empower citizens with the knowledge, skills, and tools that they need to successfully navigate the different stages of their development to end all acts of violence in the Bahamas. May God bless you and your family during this blessed season. A happy new year, and I wish that for the most success for this program, may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Felipe, for your opening remarks. And she covered absolutely everything that needed to be covered for our opening. So thank you so very much for that. At this time, there is a brief video clip that we're going to play. And this clip is just showcasing the work that is taking place, not just here in the Bahamas, but that is also taking place around the world as it pertains to gender-based violence. And so the Bahamas is one of those countries that is represented in this video. The work that we're doing is ongoing that will lead into next year. So at this time, we will play our first video clip, and then the next voice you will hear will be that of our co-host, which is Ms. Denise Major and Ms. Candy Gibson.
Welcome to the Women and Girls Empower Women Summit virtual experience across borders. This summit is designed to provide empowerment, advocacy, to raise awareness of the plight of women and girls across borders by documenting similarities and differences and promoting gender-based violence prevention and gender equality in governance. This summit will be a regional, pedagogical, experiential, knowledge IVLP alumni between 3 continents, collectively with Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Ghana, Kenya, Sri Lanka, and India. There are 3 components to the summit. 1, focus group discussions to be held in August of 2021. 2, a 5-day virtual workshop to be held November 22nd through the 26th of 2021. And 3, a global summit to be held April 4th through the 8th of 2022. We want you to think, share your thoughts, views, experiences, lend your voice as we advocate for equality and equity and navigate towards governance, peace, and security for our women and girls.
Good evening once again, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and joining us. So prior to the video, we heard Dr. Philippe, and she gave us a succinct definition of what gender-based violence is and where we are locally in the Bahamas and what is needed to take us further. Our first presenter, we have Attorney Robin Lines, and I'm hoping that she shares with us and helps us to delve deeper into understanding how to achieve justice for all of our victims as well as survivors of gender-based violence. Attorney Robin Lines, are you ready?
Hi, Denise, I'm ready. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So I want to say thank you so much to the organizers for having me on this distinguished panel. I'm always very humbled to be part of these kinds of conversations, and I'm also very privileged to hear too what the other presenters have to say. So it's a learning experience for me, and so I appreciate the invitation. I want to say congratulations to the organizers, the hosts, and to my fellow presenters in advance. I know that you guys will be phenomenal. I have 10 minutes, so it's very, very difficult because I've been rumored to be long-winded, but I don't know if it's true. Dr. Felipe will back me up. I don't think it's true, but if that's what they say, I leave it there. I leave it there.
Slides, but in the interest, we're asking everyone who has questions
10 minutes, yeah.
And we'll get to them at the end.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it brief. well, first of all, I've been asked to create the legal construct for rape and GBV. So let me just give you some definitions. First and foremost, sexual offenses in terms of our laws are consolidated in the Sexual Offenses Act. And there's been a lot of advocacy with relation to sexual offenses in our country. You know, at one point, rape, the maximum penalty for rape, if I remember correctly, and I stand to be correct, it was 7 years. And so you could have gotten less time for raping someone than you got for armed robbery, or you got for burglary. Armed robbery being 25 years to life in prison. And here it is for rape. It was at 7 years at that time. So there was a lot of advocacy that led to the creation of the Sexual Offenses Act, which consolidated the law in relation to sexual offenses in the country. So rape is actually defined in Section 3 of that legislation, and I'll read it for you. And it's open on Bahamas Laws Online. You can just Google Bahamas Laws Online for anyone who wants to kind of pull this legislation and have a look for yourself. But Section 3 of the legislation says rape is the act of any person not under 14 years of age having sexual intercourse with another person who is not his spouse. So first and foremost, a child in our law cannot rape someone. So if you are 12, 13 and under, right? You can't rape someone. So the legislation and the definition of rape does not include a minor that is under the age of 14. But anyone over 14 can be found guilty of the offense of rape. Anyone 14 years of age and over, right? You'll also see that the definition of rape excludes spouses, and we'll get to that as much as we can within the time frame. And so Denise, if you could just let me know when I'm at 5 minutes, that'll be great. So continuing with the definition of rape, it's without the consent of that other person, without consent which has been extorted by threats or fear of bodily harm, and with consent obtained by personating the spouse of that other person, or with consent obtained by false or fraudulent representation as to the nature and quality of the act. What is interesting about the definition of rape, because like I said, rape is unlawful sexual intercourse, right? What's interesting about it is the definition of sexual intercourse in the act, because it also, based on the advocacy of many of us, it includes oral sex. So you'll find in the definition of sexual intercourse, it is sexual connection occasioned by any degree of penetration of the vagina of any person or anus of any person, or by the stimulation of the vulva of any person or anus of any person, by or with any part of the body of another person or any object. So you can rape someone using an object that is not necessarily a part of your body. Okay? You can rape someone with a pole, you can rape someone with a stick, you can rape someone with an object, all right? And there's an exception, of course, for medical purposes. That is an exception to the definition of rape. But sexual intercourse is also defined as sexual connection occasioned by the introduction of any part of the penis of any person into the mouth of another person. And this was something that was not necessarily recognized in our laws, that if you force someone to perform oral sex on you being a male, that you had actually committed the act of rape. And so now in our laws, that is also considered a crime, a penalty. So you have this legal construct of rape now that encapsulates a lot more than it did in times past. So our laws, though, are not the challenge. It's the enforcement of our laws. It is the access to sensitization training for those who are part of the system, where, and I don't want to say a victim of rape, but a survivor of rape or a survivor of any sexual offense. from the time that offense is reported to the time when it is prosecuted and dealt with in a court, the system does not create a welcoming atmosphere for persons to come forward. The psychological challenge of rape already makes it difficult for a man, woman, boy, or girl to say, I've been raped. We understand that through research, we understand that through studies, we understand that through conversations with survivors. But in our country, we have not yet grasped the importance of creating a culture where saying what happened to you does not make you feel like the bad person, if I can be plain and say that. Because I learned very recently that, because I don't defend persons who are charged with rape, and I don't defend persons charged with murder. It hurts my pocket, but it's good for my soul, you know? So I didn't really understand the criminal walk through as far as that was concerned. But I learned that we have something in our law enforcement called the confrontation, where if you accuse someone of a sexual offense, you actually have to sit in a police station with that individual face to face and say what they did to you. I think that is absolutely horrendous. And it is the next part of our advocacy to bring that to a close. Marital rape is another touchy subject, and that's found in Section 15 of our Sexual Offenses Act. And it's called, I think it's unlawful sexual intercourse with a spouse. Let me see if I can quickly, sexual assault by a spouse, where there is a decree nisi of divorce, and that means that the court process as far as the marriage is concerned has been dealt with, but the decree has not yet been made absolute. Even in that period, you're still considered man and wife, mind you. But if you force that person into sexual intercourse, that's rape. Decree of judicial separation, sorry, that's not rape, that's sexual assault by a spouse. A separation agreement, any of these things being in place would find you guilty of sexual assault by a spouse. One of the things that I think that we need to add to this legislation is where consent is obtained through threats of harm or through violence. And that's not here. So if I don't have a decree nisi, if I don't have a judicial separation, if I don't have a separation agreement, if I don't have an order of the court, whether that be for a bound over, whether that be for a protection order pursuant to the Protection Order Domestic Violence Act, then it means then that what if my husband and I, or the husband and wife, are in one household and everything is good, and one night he just comes home drunk and decides to put a gun to my head and say, listen, do what I tell you to do, or else, or decides to be violent. That's not really included in this particular definition of sexual assault by a spouse. So that needs to be challenged, that needs to be looked at, because whether you're in marriage or outside of marriage, persons need to feel protected in the law. I also note that most of the penalties for rape, sexual assault, unlawful sexual intercourse, all of those penalties would say liable to imprisonment for life. But sexual assault of a spouse, I think the maximum penalty is 15 years. Why have we done that? Why is there a differentiation in the sentencing window? That's because it gives the view or the opinion that what I do to my spouse is less atrocious than what I would do if we were not married, but the act is still the same. And so that's another thing that needs to be addressed in the legislation. All right, so there's a lot to unpack, there's a lot to talk about when we talk about the system, when we talk about access to justice, We talk about the creation of a court that deals specifically with sexual offenses, but all of that just becomes a conversation if the entire process is not looked at and addressed by properly understanding the psychological impact of rape and sexual assault and applying that to what we do. I haven't even begun to touch gender-based violence, but I'm just going to give you the definition of gender-based violence as it is found in the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And this was defined in 1993. But it defines violence against women, gender-based violence, as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or private life. Gender-based violence is any violence inflicted on a person because of their sex. And I must say this now, while women, men, girls, and boys can be victims of gender-based violence, women and girls are the main victims due mainly to the unequal distribution of power in society between women and men. So unfortunately, I have to stop there. I want to respect the time, but Ms. Bowe has said that this is not the end, this is but the beginning. So consider that an introduction from me to, I think, a conversation that is very necessary. So again, thank you all so very much. And I look forward to hearing from the other presenters as we add some substance to this very necessary and important conversation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lyons. If you have questions, please post them in the chat. Hopefully we'll have some time later on throughout so we can get to them. But up next, we have Ms. Stephanie St. Frith, who is speaking about gender as an overcomer of gender-based violence and rape. Stephanie, are you ready?
I don't see a Stephanie as co-host. Stephanie, can you raise your hand?
I think Stephanie is under her daughter's name, which is Delisha Sweeting. I saw her earlier. Okay, she's there. She changed the name, so she's there. She just needs to unmute her mic. Stephanie, can you unmute your mic for us, please?
Okay, I think I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you. We can hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm using the computer. I'm on the computer. Okay. Can you give me just 1 second, please? I'm sorry. 1 second. Can I give you guys all of the water?
Yes,
I just need a straw. I think I saw the box there. Thank you.
No problem. Hello? Can you hear me? I am so sorry. Let me humbly apologize.
More, Stephanie.
I'm still to work. Can I get a minute just to open up in a short prayer, please? If that's okay. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity. All heads bowed and all eyes closed when you come in the front of the throne of God. Please. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to come into your presence and to share my testimony. Take full control over my words and everything that's about to take place so that you could be glorified and others can be edified. Thank you. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we still can hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
video is off, so we can still hear you.
Okay, let me try and turn it back on. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Okay, who am I? I'm a survivor, a chosen vessel, and a kingdom citizen. I'm also victorious and a child of God. Who I'm not. I'm no longer a victim. I am no longer fearful, but I am a child of God. Good evening, everyone in Media Land, everyone who's listening under the sound of my voice. Good evening, good evening. Season's greetings to everyone. Some people ask, why you share your experience? Well, I answered, that's how my healing started. In my mind, first I decided to share my story, and I said, God got to be glorified. Women out there who were raped and aren't here to tell their story. I am alive to share my story. It's never easy, but the more you share, you realize only could be God as to why I'm still here. As a teenager, being molested, so many things went through my head. Why me? I decided, as a friend asked me one day, do you want to go to another family island with me? I simply said yes. Very naive, very young, at a very tender age. I went with her to another family island. I find myself abandoned on that family island. No one to talk to, nowhere to go. I decided, well, nobody knew where I was. I better try to get back home. Unsurprisingly, my molester was on that island. But because my molester was a family member, as a family member, you expect them to be there for you. I trusted the family member. I was, like I say, green, naive, and frightened. I just wanted to get back home. So I was put onto a boat that was heading back to the island that I came from. On that boat, there were 3 men. Now, I don't know what was going through the molester head that put me on the boat. As far as he's concerned, okay, I'm doing you a favor. You said you want to go home. I was feeling ill on the boat, so I went down in the cabinet and I just lie down, only to be wakened by a man over me. And he said, no use you scream. Nobody gonna hear you out here. I just started to cry. I said, Lord, not again, not me. The first gentleman, there were 3, by the way. The first gentleman, he raped me. He went back up on the deck. The other gentleman came. He raped me again. All I could do was just start praying, Lord, please don't let them kill me. The other gentleman came. He raped me. And it happened for at least about an hour. I was sick to my stomach. I prayed and asked God, please, I just want to get home safe. I just want to get home safe. We landed back home, which is my hometown. My foot hit the dirt and I was like, thank you, Jesus. I'm still alive. I am still alive. It took me a while, a very, very long time before I was able to share my story. I was afraid. Even during my molestation, I was afraid. From then came the rape. I was afraid. I prayed and I asked God to strengthen me. I still was afraid simply because during the molestation and rape, I was told, if you tell anybody, we would kill you. We would find you, we would kill you. We would kill your parents, so you best stay quiet. like I said, it took years for me to tell my story. Fast forward, today, I can share my story. Because like I say, when I first started, I am not a victim. I am victorious. I am a survivor. God kept me through it all. I am not afraid to tell my story anywhere I go, because hadn't I told my story some years ago, which I pray within my heart that these guys didn't do what they did to nobody else. We as women, we more worry about our pride. We're not thinking they can do this to somebody else. Pride, fear. That's what first come to mind. What this one gonna think? What that gonna think? What the next one is gonna think? How they gonna see you? Like I say, I am a child of God. I am today married with 2 beautiful daughters, an ordained minister, an NGO who I'm highly devoted to, and my team. We teach them everything there is when it comes down to remaining pure and wait until marriage. That's what Princess Court Ministries is all about. Yes, my name is Stephanie Laverne Woodside Fripp, the president of Princess Court Ministries, and I am proud to be a leader of such ministries. We are in Grand Bahama under the founder of Sister Stephanie Barrows, and here in Nassau, Princess Court Ministries, Fort Charlotte. I stand here, I sit here today, proud of who I am, where God has brought me and where He will continue to take me. And if I'm asked, why the sharing your story means so much, if it could heal or bring any women to sit down and share their story so that they can be healed. Healing starts from within. And the more you share, the more you heal. I can say to this day that God has been good to me. I've been to death door so many times. How can I say that God was with me through my rape? They could rape me and throw me in the ocean. They didn't. So it had to have been God who was there. Everything that I've been through in this life, God was there. I believe that, and I want every woman out there who is listening under the sound of my voice. Yes, I was told, why do you have to tell the world your story? Just take it to God. Okay. That's selfish. Others need to be healed. Others need to know it's okay to share your story. It's okay to share your story. I am fine with sharing my story. I am no longer that teenager who was raped some years ago. I'm an overcomer. I'm a survivor. I'm a kingdom child. Whatever it is that I've been through, that's history. I ain't forget my history, but that don't define who I am either. I'm a leader. I'm a transformational leader. I'm a child of God. And whatever I do from here on in is because of God's grace and mercy that kept me. He kept me through everything that I've been through. He kept me. And that's the one person I can assure you that will keep you no matter what you're going through in this life. Rape, molestation, don't be afraid. Find somebody. I was naive. I was fearful. I didn't know who to talk to. Yes, God was there. And yes, I cry out to Him. But this is my living testimony to other women out there. Let me just say this before I go. Women, please stop pulling down each other. Stop criticizing each other. Be humble. Be there for each other. We are only a vessel. This is God breath we have in our body. Be humble. Be nice. Be a friend. Be a sister. Always have your ears open to listen and pray. Pray for a sister. Don't pull them down. Don't talk behind their back. Look out for each other. That's my advice to any women who is listening under the sound of my voice. God is able to do all things. All things. I am happy that I came, I sat here, and I was able to express myself and say what it is that I was led to say. Thank you so much, Kendra Bow, for this platform. I appreciate you taking my advice on this platform and bringing this platform forward. Like I say, there's no reason to have fear, no reason to have pride. If you've been through it, if you've been raped, speak. Healing starts from within. Okay, ladies, under the sound of my voice, healing starts from within. You can't keep it in. As long as you release it, the healing starts. But if you keep it in, you're going to get sore, ulcer, and everything within your body. I'm not going to die from any of those things. I'm going to release it. And the more you release it, the more you heal. God is good. God is good. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your courage and your strength and your obedience in sharing with us today. We appreciate you. We love you. And you are truly victorious. We want you to know that was such an amazing testimony. Robin spoke earlier about creating a culture of telling your story. And you answered the question that someone had asked earlier. How do we create this culture? And we do this by telling our stories, by being comfortable, by being courageous, by being obedient, and supporting each other as women, as survivors, as supporters, as individuals who want to see a change and who want to be there for each other. So once again, I thank you. And I'll turn it over to Dave to introduce our next speaker.
I too join Denise in thanking you for such a powerful story. We know that God is a healer, he's a restorer, and that while God did not cause it to happen, but that he permitted, he allowed it, and it's for his glory, and it will be used for your good. There has been a slight change in the program. I want to introduce to you a gentleman, Dr. Eric Fox. We know him as Executive Director of Teen Challenge, an anger management and temperance expert and a consultant for urban renewal. And his topic he will be sharing will be on why do men respond with violence in relationship. And I know based on a number of training I've went to, whether it's national or just local, there's always shown some link between violence in relationship and rape. And so I welcome for you, Dr. Eric Fox. Go ahead, Dr. Fox. Dr. Fox? Can we see when his mic is unmuted, anyone?
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. What I want to mention, I had a call. I can't stay for the duration of the presentation, but I just want to say that it's a good work you're trying to do. It's something positive we need. However, I just want to mention particularly what I do and how I view men in this whole violent thing. A lot of times I've seen a lot is being placed on the victims. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've worked with Teen Challenge for the last 34 years. We were born out of violence out of New York City. I also worked for the last 14 years with Dr. Harry Ferrer with the Catholic Church, where we run a domestic violence program for men who are abusive towards their spouse. And I have come to learn that abuse is a song and dance. A lot of the men that will respond with physical abuse are also being abused also in these relationships. However, we put a lot of emphasis on the physical because you can see the physical. If a man punch a woman and or kick her and she go to the hospital, she got a black eye, we can see those things. So we highlight those things and we see those women as victims. And yes, they are. I'm not trying to get these men off the hook. They need to take responsibility for being violent. However, we need to understand if we do not put, Dave, some finances and some emphasis on the perpetrators, we will be spinning the wheels over and over and over and over again. It's the same thing. We can put money into the hospital, but we also got to put that same amount of money into health, into how to live healthy, how to exercise, how to eat properly. And so if we only focus and we have a lot of women, and I'm not against it, mind you, I am for it, but there are 3-4 different levels of abuse. There's physical, there's psychological, there's verbal, and there's sexual. We primarily focus on the physical, and most of the time the men are responsible for the physical. They are the persons that physically abuse their spouse or their girlfriend in these relationships. But however, in talking with these men over the last 34 years, and being one of them myself, being one of them myself, I was verbally and psychologically abused in a marriage for 16 years. Being put down, being called dumb, being called, when I meet you, you had nothing. You ain't never had nothing. Your family ain't getting nothing. You ain't gonna be this, you ain't gonna be that. Those things, and only by the grace of God, I ain't just slap the woman off her leg, being honestly, because I learned some skill in how to communicate. I learned how to talk and how, so the premise and the whole foundation of violence, remember now, violence is learned. This is a learned behavior. And I'm gonna say this to all you women out there who work with women who've been abused. I'm telling you, if these women that you're working with does not learn how to deal with their own abuse, guess what's gonna happen? Because they've been abused before and they were also abusers, their tolerant level for abuse is lower. So if they are not taught, Dave, on how to deal with their own abuse, they will find themselves right back in another abusive relationship. Okay. You know why? Because if a guy slaps them, they'll say, okay, this guy slapping me, but I was with a fellow who used to stamp me, so they accept the slap because their tolerance level is low for abuse. And we need programs, Dave. I am trying my best. I run Teen Challenge. I have Temperament Anger Management. That's my private program. I'm also in the process now of developing some programs for urban renewal and all the status through social services, so we can have a place where men can talk. Yes. Violence is a form of communication. A fella becomes violent when he don't know how to communicate. A fella, you'll find this. The feeling behind all violence is the feeling of powerlessness. All violence is about power. It's about taking power. The fellow who bullying somebody else in school, he's trying to take power over this young man. The fellow who bullying his wife or slapping up his girlfriend, he's trying to control her and get power over her. The fellow on the road who doing gang warfare, he's trying to get power of turf, trying to get power of areas. So the main emotion behind violence is powerlessness. These men feel powerless and they trying to take this power from where they shouldn't have it in the first place. Now they feel powerless, but that don't mean they are. They just feel that. And so we teach them how to keep their power and teach them how to communicate without being violent. Most men don't really even know what they're feeling. Most adults don't know what they're feeling. They say things like, man, I feel this woman don't like me, or I feel this fella get a wife of me. That is not a feeling, you're thinking that. And so we teach them how to separate what they're thinking from what they're feeling, because what they are feeling is what they need to communicate. And we need to set up some more programs, and this is overwhelming for me. And and even in the person who's in charge of gender, I even think, and this is my point, I even think gender is a little lopsided. It's a little lopsided. There's no programs. All the programs that they facilitate is primarily for women.